Okay, welcome to the show, into the studio. Margie Vandeven, the Commissioner of DESE, Department of Elementary Secondary Education. Thanks for coming back to the show. I think it's important that we first wrap our heads around the Missouri Assessment Program, the MAP test, because that can measure, we hope, I guess, how our kids are doing or how they're not doing in school, and it also may determine the destiny of some school districts here in the St. Louis region. So first, help us out. The MAP test is different. It's changed this year. How is it different? What does that mean?
So the test that was administered in the spring of 2015 was aligned to the new revised Missouri Learning Standards, and it was at that time, Missouri was a part of the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, so we had made our transition from the prior standards to the new standards.
Are these better standards? Are these higher standards?
They are higher standards. They're more rigorous in some areas. We looked at, in some areas they weren't significantly different, but they are designed to help students think more critically. You hear a lot more about the technical reading level, text complexity, and the math really is the area where we saw more significant shifts in the level of rigor for our students.
Before we talk about the level of rigor, is this, just to be clear, is this what we call Common Core in Missouri?
They are currently the Common Core state standards, and as you may or may not know, those standards are currently under review due to legislation that was passed 2 sessions ago. We have work groups that are in place right now. They'll be bringing recommendations to the State Board of Education in October.
So the test might not look the same next year or the year after that, perhaps?
That's correct. The General Assembly also requested that we not be a part of the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, and they funded the ability to administer a test this spring. It will be aligned to the current standards, but we will not be a part of the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. So the format will look similar, but the items will be different. And then the following year, we'll look at the tests that will be aligned to the standards that are brought forward and approved by the State Board sometime this upcoming school year.
So Smarter Balance, Common Core, those things, that's a whole conversation we could have, and I have no doubt that we will have as we go forward with this. But let's kind of compartmentalize that for just 1 second and tell me, you said the rigor was different. So is the test harder? What does it mean?
The test is harder. I think one of the things that we really want to talk about is that you cannot compare. So let's just start over. You can't compare what we were doing in the past with the new test. They're a brand new baseline set of data for us. They're different. One big thing that I really would like to mention is that for the first time our grade 3 through 8 were tested online, so all children had the ability and the access to test online. That was a significant feat for the state of Missouri, that they were able to pull that off without any major flaws, and so we're very proud of the state for being able to do that. Children were tested using their 21st century learning skills, and we're able to do that. One of the areas that we did see, again, we talked a little bit about text complexity, so that has changed in the way that the tests were presented. They're designed to measure more things like listening and speaking skills, and asking children to not simply select their multiple choice questions, but really apply and support their answers and their rationale as to why they made the selection that they did. So really trying to move beyond simple black and white yes or no answers, and focusing on critical thinking.
So I gather it's hard to decide what these scores tell us, given that they can't, like you just said, you can't compare them
Correct.
to last
That's
year.
right. That's right.
So no decision, for instance, on any particular district's accreditation will be determined on these scores.
That's right. And again, that's in statute right now, that when we make a change in a test, that they will not be used to lower a district's classification or a teacher's evaluation.
I said we set that Common Core, or that the other, whatever it is we choose to call it here in Missouri, into another pile. But let's choose from that pile just a little bit and say, can we take these scores, while we can't compare them year to year to our own test, how do we compare, are we able to compare to other states, to other parts of the country?
So we will be able to do that, but most of the states have not released their scores yet. We're looking towards October, when we believe we'll have a full scale of the 17 states who administer the Smarter Balanced, and we'll be able to see where we compared on this first administration. Again, you want to be careful in any time that you're talking about 1 year of data, how much you pull out of 1 year of data, but it will give us an interesting perspective on how we look as a state in comparison to these 17 other states. The other thing that we were able to look at the field test data that was the national, the set of the 17 states who tested on that field test data, and we beat those projections pretty significantly, so we felt good about that. Again, it's field test data, and you need to be very careful about any kind of conclusion that you would make based upon measuring and comparing field test versus actual live data.
Okay, so if we can, we're getting to a point where we can compare within districts, within the state, within across state borders. We want to be top 10 by 2020. What does that mean? How do we do it?
So currently, great question. Currently what we're doing is we're looking at scores, tests that we do have on a national level, such as the ACT or the NAEP. We were planning to use the Smarter Balanced Assessment. Right now we are designing Missouri tests, so whether or not we'll be able to do state-to-state comparability remains a question. That is certainly a priority for many, and so we're looking at, are there ways to do that in a manageable way or not? But the real focus right now is how do we respect the rights of the state of Missouri and ensure that we're able to put a test together that works the best for our kids.
We've heard this on the show before. We've heard this this week when we had our Twitter chat on Tuesday, that tests don't measure intelligence necessarily. Tests don't show improvement or progress necessarily. Are we testing the right thing? Can you test? Can you measure those things with the tests that you have now?
You know, and the tests do continue to get better. They're never going to be the perfect answer. What we're trying to ensure is that, you know, our kids reading. Do they have the basic numeracy skills necessary to enter into the workforce ready to be successful? We look at science, and we're measuring social studies because so many said we've got to focus on developing the whole child. So are they the perfect solution, and will they answer every question? No. Do they answer some? And I think that's what we always need to keep in perspective is, what is the purpose of the test? How are we using it? And is it in a responsible way that we're using the results of those tests and data points? But I can tell you that as commissioner, I get asked the question all the time. Are our kids, how do we know that our kids are prepared? How do we know that programs or funding or tax dollars are being used wisely? And the thing they point to are, you know, what do third grade reading scores look like? Or what is our Algebra, how are our Algebra 1 scores panning out? And they ask about those real solid data points. So they have a purpose, but they are certainly not the only answer.